Now, I'm wondering if anybody can see me or hear me. Could you send me a message if anybody can, please? Hello from an extremely wet and windy Scotland. No surprise there. Can people hear me and see me? I'm trying to join this chat, but it doesn't look like it wants to work. I've just written a fascinating piece of... Hello, Nigel. Yes, I can see and hear. Oh, marvellous. We've got 3 minutes to go. Just having the daily cup of tea. Yes, hello. Oh, lots of Ben England. Yes, that well-known first soprano. Interesting. There are so many messages coming through. I can't actually focus on them. My eyesight is terrible, I know, but it makes me really feel quite dizzy watching them all sort of float by at such a rate of knots. But hello. Yes. Thank you. I think I know you can hear and see me now. Yeah. Earl Grey. Cheers, everybody. So lots of first sopranos. So are you all warmed up and ready for this top C then? I hope you are. God, I can't even get the C below anymore. There we are. That's sitting on a particularly uncomfortable chair. Prefer Lady Grey, somebody says. Oh, interesting. Don't know that one. Ben England, are they rusty nutcrackers? Steady on, you'll get me into trouble. Somebody said yes, 1 octave down. Well, it'll be the two of us then, down there. Yeah. So we're gonna have a bit of fun today, doing a little game. I don't know if it'll work, because I've got this microphone here, but we can try it. And I wonder if anybody has actually sung for me in a workshop before. Tenor sneaking in to observe. Oh, we've got an infiltrator. Love top C's. That's Evelyn with you. Well, okay. We'll look forward to hearing yours. Right, it is 3:30, ladies. Let's and welcome to everybody else as well. Let's make a bright start. Now, can you tweak the audio video a bit more? It's saying slightly out of sync. Just let me go to... This has been absolutely fascinating. Ben, if you're able to tell me the milliseconds, we're at 200 for this delay. Should I go up or down? There you are. I'm exposing my absolute lack of knowledge in anything technical whatsoever. I'm afraid I'm a total Luddite. And these very kind people and brilliant people like Ben England and Mark Strachan have helped me get to grips with all of this. So do I go at 200 or 300 or go down? I think I'll just try. It's 250. Actually, it's okay. Oh. Right, it's probably because all my family who are on tablets and goodness knows what for schooling and things, they've all suddenly gone off and turned their things off. Right, we're going to make a start. So, as I mentioned yesterday, 2 things that are really crucial for me when we're singing and all this kind of stuff is, one, you remain relaxed so that you physically, the muscles are working, they're active, but they're not tense. because otherwise, when you take a deep breath, you are not expanding your lungs in to the capacity that they are built for. So very important when you're standing, just to have your feet underneath your hips, not close together and not too far apart. So all the same things as yesterday, just sort of do gentle neck rolls, shoulder rolls. If you're a bit tense, just sort of shake some tension out of your fingers, and the same with your feet. And just there was another exercise. If you were able to stand up, then do. And if you were to just sort of bend over, I mean, if you've got a bad back like me, then probably this isn't a great thing. But the singers, I see a lot of them doing it, tenor singers before our concerts, just to sort of eke out every bit of sort of elasticity in your spine. Just stand up and then gently flop forward so that your hands and your head go towards the floor. Keep your legs straight if you can. And so you're just sort of hanging there kind of loose. And then very, very gradually, from the spine, from the bottom of your spine upwards, you're going to straighten from there. So your head doesn't come up first and your shoulders don't come up. They're the last thing to go. So you just very slowly unfurl, sort of like a flower, I guess. And then when you come up, you'll kind of have the feeling that you're floating. And now roll the shoulders again. And we're just going to start with some exercises of just bright humming. So don't be worried when you're humming and warming up and getting your voice going to make some odd sounds. The whole point is that you're just getting everything up here working. You're kicking everything into gear. Often people say that singing is a bit like a sport, in that you've got to get all the working parts absolutely up to top speed in order to then venture into singing, some of these phrases. And when you've got something like the Allegri, which is, to the extremes for some of us, or some of you, then it's important that you are warmed up properly. So just humming, just a C major triad going down. Just repeat that over and over again. Remember the smile, and see if you can make it sound slightly metallic. Doesn't have to be beautiful, just slightly metallic. And now take a breath, but don't let the cheeks go down, and we'll go up. If it's really metallic and buzzing, if your lips are tickling, then that's actually quite a good thing. And now, and now, I realise that we should probably be going quite a lot higher for you sopranos, but because I'm not really a singer anymore, I can't get that high. But just do this exercise. We're going to do the humming and then come out onto an R without letting the cheeks go down, and trying to keep that slight metallic brightness in the sound. You get the idea? Here we go. 3 and. And up semitone. Really important to keep smiling. And now do. So you've got to, it's quite hard work now. I still want you to sort of imagine that you're smiling a little bit, cheeks up. So when you come down, we don't have and things drop. Okay, so the Ooh, I can't do it. But if you imagine this is like a head voice, so let's go a bit higher, sopranos. Ooh, up in the soprano pitch. 3 and. Ooh, ah, and high now in F. Ooh, ah, another one. Ooh, ah, another one. I'm in some weird, horrible falsetto. Ooh, ah, another semitone. Ooh, ah. Now getting a bit higher, so need a bit more steel in the tummy and the diaphragm. 3 and. Ooh, ah. That's it. And now, just shake those shoulders again. Now, I wonder if, let's try this sitting down to start with. Does everybody know the tune? Well, if you don't, you'll catch on pretty quickly. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. So bring back my Bonnie to me. Bring back, oh bring back my Bonnie to me, to me. Bring back, oh bring back my Bonnie to me. Boom, boom. Okay, you get that? So just go through this. It's a very simple song. You'll catch on with the text even if you don't know it. And look what I'm doing. My. You see the difference? That's my default position. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. And I don't let that drop. Everything from here stays bright and alert. Well, at least I try. Let's have another slurp of tea, shall we? I just, I have no vocal stamina these days, so I'm worn out vocally already. My Bonnie lies. Okay, everybody ready? 1 and 2. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. So come back, my Bonnie, to me. Bring back, oh bring back my Bonnie to me, to me. Bring back, oh bring back my Bonnie to me. Boom, boom, boom. That's it. Okay, now we're going to make things slightly more interesting with every time we have the letter M, we're going to clap. Okay, I'll do it gently here. So the letter M, you clap. Okay, so we're going to start with a clap, aren't we? 1 and when I sing, listen for my breath and try to latch onto it and sing with me, even if I don't give you a count in, because when you're listening to the Miserere tracks, because it's not in a regular time at the beginning of every verse, it's really useful if you just get used to the idea of listening for the collective breath of the singers that have recorded it, and then you'll kind of start. When I'm sort of beating at the beginning, that's what I'm listening for. So you can easily do that yourself. Okay, my Bonnie, ready? 1 and 2. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. Oh, bring back my Bonnie to me. And bring back, oh, bring back my Bonnie to me, to me. Bring back, oh, bring back my Bonnie to me. Okay? Is everybody with me? Are the brain cells and the synapses starting to move and shimmer? This is all a sort of mental exercise to get you really bright and alert. We're going to make it a bit more physical now. I have to make sure none of my leads from my headphones are in the way. So now we're going to sing it again. Still clapping every time there is a letter M, but this time, every time there's a letter B, you're going to stand up. And the next time there's a letter B, you sit down. So you might lose me from the microphone sound, and I'm going to be up and doing and throwing. But that's the idea. So we're kind of doing several things at once. It's like one of those exercises where you're rubbing your tummy and patting your head, or vice versa. Okay, so it's a clap and then a stand, really quite quickly. If you have a bad back, I suggest you stay lying down on the sofa. 1 and 2. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. Oh, bring back my Bonnie to me. And bring back. Oh, bring back my Bonnie to me. Bring back. Oh, bring back my Bonnie to me. Now, if you're standing up, you've got it wrong, okay? Has everybody got this? Workout time. I'm hoping that cheeks aching already. Yes, I bet. You need to find a softer seat to sit on. So this is actually a serious thing. When you want to when you come to a choir practice, I mean, a lot of you probably work, you have sort of office jobs or real jobs, and you're 9 to 5, and you come to a choir practice and you're already exhausted. You've already done a full day's work, and these kind of exercises, they're really good for just getting your mind into a different gear. You're breathing, you're doing something physical, you're singing, and you're having to think about the coordination all at the same time. It basically means you're doing several things at once. And the synapses, there was a medical study, I can't remember when it was done. I think it was actually sort of shortly after 2000, to find the activities, the top 10 or 20 activities that get the synapses operating at their most efficient and fastest rate. And do you know what came in the top 10? Is anybody going to quickly guess? Let's have a look at the chat. Kills the legs. Oh, no. I like these exercises, especially after a whole day of online school. Well, exactly. There you are. So can anybody guess what activity that we kind of would all experience? No. Well, anyway, I'm going to tell you. It is sight reading. Sight reading came out in the top 10 activities that you could possibly do that get the synapses working at their very fastest and most efficient rate. And that is probably why so many people who sing are phenomenally intelligent. And if you believe that, you believe anything. So we are, when you sight read, of course, you're, unlike if you're playing a piano, you don't have to think of an A and then work out a fourth. If it's an A to a D or whatever, you just play the notes. Whereas as a singer, you've actually got to hear the notes in your head, work out where a fourth is. Then you've got to breathe and vocalize. Then you're reading a word. You're reading the length of a note. You're looking at the harmony, probably vertically in the score. You are looking at dynamics, and then on top of all that, you're looking at a sort of great hairy conductor in front of you, who's waving and being horrible, trying to get you to all sing together and nicely in tune, all that kind of stuff. So you're doing about 10, 12 different things, most of which are enjoyable apart from looking at the conductor. So that's why I do these sort of games, and if you didn't find it that easy to start with, have another go. It's very simple. It doesn't really matter whether you clap on the letter B or stand up and down, whatever. It just means that you're getting things working. So look, let's make a start on the Allegri. Now I think those are our starting notes. I'll just get my little computer switched on here so that I can give you the tracks. So all of you brave souls are going to try the top C. Now look, I'll play it through. when you go for this top C, that's a terrible thing psychologically. Isn't it? When you go for it, it's like a high wire, or doing a high jump. Um, you need to kind of not worry about the breath. Take what is a comfortable breath, but don't hold it. Don't hold it. If you run out of breath, I think that's absolutely fine. There are all sorts of ways you can cheat this phrase and make it sound sort of musical and whatever. If you're going to run out of breath, fade out gently. Doesn't matter. There's lots of us singing it, and lots of us will cover all the notes. We've all got different breath capacities, lung capacities, and so just fade out of the sound and then come back in, and that way we'll have a very smooth effect of everybody. Okay, so here we go. Now remember, bright Italianate. Miserere. I think Mark Strachan may have put the sort of the pronunciation guide up on a video for you, and you'll see even when I'm reading it, miserere me, I kind of overdo it almost. Once you're in a big church, it kind of can we have a sight singing course, please, Ben England? Question for Ben. So I thought it was Ben asking for it. Right. So are we ready? Here comes the track. Remember to listen for that breath at the beginning. how did you guys do? That's quite tough, isn't it? Coming in first thing. I'm just going to get Mark to email me the score because my son has been on this computer today for schooling, and the miserere score that you are all using has disappeared very handily. Can you give me the score, please? So if he sends me that, then I can go through this. It occurred to me that as we were going through that, in fact, just a little sad story whilst you're all having a little break. Nigel, can we talk about vibrato? Yes, we can. My son, who's a chorister, was readied for the top C last year. Actually, was it last year or was it actually 2 years ago? I think he was 9 and or 10. I think he just turned 10. No, he was just about to turn 10, and he was readied to sing the solo in this along with 2 other boys. And he was very excited, and in the warm-ups he'd done terribly well apparently, and we turned up to chapel, and just as they were processing out for the beginning of the service, the choir master went up to him and said, Josh, actually not you today. And the poor little thing, he cried all the way through the service, and I was heartbroken for him. I kind of guessed what must have happened. And we scooped him up afterwards and told him not to worry, there'd be another year. And of course then the pandemic struck, so they didn't do it last year and they won't do it this year, or they haven't done it this year. So maybe he'll have to do it next year. Maybe he'll have to be like me. He'll have to do it once he's actually his voice is broken, and do it with a head voice. But anyway, so actually, interesting point, the vibrato. I think I never really ask my singers for a totally straight sound because I think it's probably a fairly unnatural way of singing. You know, if you have vibrato, the nicest vibrato I think is one that's a natural one rather than one that's actually learnt and manufactured. If it happens to be there in a note, then I never want to suppress that. There are times in modern music where I think you want an effect, or actually the beginning of this piece, you want a big chord like an organ chord going down, or maybe in contemporary music it's like a brass effect, and you want a big wall of sound, a steely sound. And that, at that point, I would say to the singers, can we keep this one straight? Just go for the harmonics. And the harmonics, when tenebrae are singing all over the place, quite often people will come up to us and say, how does that choir make such a loud sound for only 19 singers in a vast space? And half the time when we're singing, when we're using that hard sort of straight sound, and it's perfectly in tune. If it's imperfectly in tune, then you create harmonics, and the harmonics actually make the air vibrate sort of violently, and it magnifies the sound. But you can't sort of have it for too long, otherwise it's sort of killing on the voice. And I certainly know that from my experience when I was a singer, I would sort of roll my eyes. And if I was asked to sing straight, and I suspect my singers, when I ask for it, they go, yes, and they write something in their score which says, yes, sing straight, Nigel. How much we're enjoying this, so I think don't worry about vibrato. If it happens to be there, then fine. The important thing with this music, Renaissance music generally, is I'll just sort of explain in a very basic way the difference between Baroque music and Renaissance music. Of course, Allegri is interesting because all his instrumental music was early Baroque, and that is lots of little phrases within a phrase. So dum da da dee dum da da dee 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 da 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 da. So you've got lots of little arcs, if you like, over one overriding phrase. In Renaissance polyphony, it tends not to be like that. And so when you're singing a phrase, you want to think of just one big arc. Miserere mei Dei. That's where the top of the arc is, and then you sustain it and come down, rather than miserere mei. Do you see what I mean? Lots of groups of 2 or 3 notes that make up the whole phrase. In Renaissance polyphony, that's not really the approach that I personally like, and certainly most of the British choirs don't go for that. We go for a much smoother effect. So when you're singing this piece, that's probably worthwhile. Somebody just sort of said, "Oh, that was cruel, poor lad." Yeah, sorry, this came back to the story about my son. I thought so too, but actually the choir master called us the next day because he realised how upset Josh was, and he said he just in the rehearsal, Josh had just got a little bit nervous and had run out of breath and whatever, and the last thing he wanted to do was for Josh to get up there in the service and then actually make a mess of it, because that would have been far more damaging to his long-term confidence. So and in fact this choir master was brilliant. He just sort of made Josh, put him on a pedestal for all sorts of other things for the next 2 weeks, and Josh, within about 2 days was right as rain. So there we are. There was a method in his there was a whatever is the expression, method to his madness. I was told vibrato was a no in choral singing. Oh no, golly. No, I think you don't want to sing Brahms and Bruckner really without using a bit of vibrato. And I think it's important to point out that lots of voices are working at their best. They're most colourful when they're able, and the most expressive when they're able to add a little bit of vibrato. So I wouldn't worry about it. The important thing is, if you sing straight and you find yourself sort of tiring quickly, then it's probably, that's not the most natural way for you to sing. Of course, what we don't know, the eternal question, this is why I want to invent a time machine, is, would they have used vibrato in the early days when Handel was writing, for example? We just can't be sure, can we? But certainly I think vibrato in Renaissance polyphony, as I say, I think is probably not the way to go. When I do it, when I've performed it with a choir of professional singers, not tenebrae, and I've not been in a position to say, please, sing with a more clear, straighter tone. I don't think it works so well for the music. I think the music benefits from a purer sound that has these sort of long arcs through it. And of course, you're handing one line to another part, to another part, to another part. If you keep coming back into the picture with your little phrases of 2 or 3 notes, then that kind of takes away from that next part that's coming along. When you've had one part that's reached the top of its arc and is on then another part is doing that, then your ear is kind of drawn to the climaxes of each line, the thing that the composer wants you to hear, and the way he's conceived it. So I think let's move on from that one. So yes, just some natural colour vibrato, absolutely, whatever comes most naturally to you. So look, do we need to go through the timings of these pieces? I'm just going to... So we start on a D, don't we? Miserere. When the music is in it with a beat, then we're always 4 beats in a bar, aren't we? So I always sort of think, if you need to keep account of the beats, then do it with your fingers rather than physically pulsing. This is something that the little boys are taught to do on the choir stalls, just very gently if they need to, just with your 4 fingers. And then whatever you're doing, so long as you're keeping that going in time with the conductor, then you kind of know where you are in the music, in the score. So shall we just get your lad to sing the top C's with us here? I think if I asked him to, he'd run a mile. In fact, I think he's out in the garden now because he's been cooped up all day doing online schooling, and he's very happy to get off the computer. So I'm sorry, that probably won't happen. I'll do it for you instead. No. Right, so miserere mei. Let's just have one more go at this, the chorus. And when you have miserico, funnily enough, Victoria Mittyard is the soprano singing in this, in the top C's, and I hear her go mi da da da. Can you hear that surge that I put at the end of the note? And I call that squeezing the toothpaste tube. Squeezy. what it does, it gives an impetus to the beat. And actually, that's very interesting that she does it on this track when she's at home on her own. Because if she was with me in front of me in a room in a choir practice, I would probably give her a wry smile and remind her that that's probably not the way to do it. Because if you've got 20 odd singers and everybody is doing that with all their phrases, then it gets very surgy and you start to feel seasick very quickly. So I think she's probably doing it because she needed some rhythmic impetus when she was recording stuff on her own. Right. Ya dee da. That's your note is the one at the top. So we're going to keep this bright sound and we're going to go all over the phrase like this. And if you need to dip out, remember to take a breath. Do it in plenty of time. Don't squeeze the last bit of air in your lungs out and then snatch one, because I'll tell you what happens. You snatch a breath, your larynx goes straight up here and you don't get a quality breath anyway. So if you feel you're going to need a breath, just gently duck out of the sound, take a nice silent breath and come back in. Okay, are you ready for this once more? We'll get to the top C's in a minute. I know that's the reason why you're all here. Here we go. I've just read a message here. A very wide vibrato is never good, I think. I remember when I was in the Tallis Scholars, I sang next to a tenor called Charles Daniels, who had the most amazing perfect pitch. He could tell you if that D, whether it was in A440 or A441, A439, blah, blah, blah. And he said he'd just done a job somewhere where there was a singer who had a vibrato over a minor sixth, which is quite something, isn't it? So, somewhere, I wish I'd been there. Would have been. Lord only knows what music that person was singing, but a minor sixth is pretty special. Anyway, so here we go. Listen for that breath at the beginning. Bass flat. Smooth. Okay, I'm just going to stop you there. When you're practicing this, I really would, when you're practicing, deliberately slide up between the G, because one of the worst things for losing breath is, you see how I aspirate between the two notes. And if there was a candle in front of me with the flame flickering right in front of my breath, it would suddenly blow as I go between the two notes. And ideally, when you're doing this kind of stuff, you want to have that flame just here, not too close, and it shouldn't move. You get the idea. So if you're practicing just to get really see what I'm going on about, and then I'm not sort of wasting any breath at any point in the phrase. You can do that with any music you like. It's quite a good way of expanding your breath control over phrases. And the more you do it, actually, the more you exercise your diaphragm, the stronger it gets, so that when you have got air and you're just supporting at the end of a phrase, it helps. And if you improve your breath control, I would say 99 times out of 100, if you know psychologically your breath control is pretty good, then you stay relaxed at the ends of phrases, or when you're snatching breaths, whatever, you're in control of everything. So let's go on now, and let's go to the very end. We are now at this is the very last line of music, and it's the repetition of tunc acceptabis sacrificium, the slow line. I would like you all to sing the part. When you record it, I want you to record both parts, but for now let's do the tunc imponent. And again, remember, it's too long to get through in one breath, so just fade out and get yourself back in with a nice relaxed quality breath when you come back in. Yeah, los, and the last word is los, or los. Keep that los is German. Keep those cheeks up and a nice bright sound, and don't go los. Phrase it as if you're just leaving the sound hanging in a huge cathedral, and you want to just send it on its way, floating down the building, and it's going to be there 30 seconds later. So you just put it there and float away. Okay. Ya da dee dum. So your note is up there. Here we go. I'll just go a little bit. You might get a little bit of something before you start. Okay. Ooh. Oh, shush. Interesting. When I'm with tenebrae at the ends of pieces like that, and I give the final consonant, I don't give the final consonant actually. I can tell when everybody's not running out of breath, but when the natural end of the phrase is, and so long as I don't fight that sort of instinct, then I almost don't, as a conductor, I don't have to bother with going sort of like this. Yes. Because otherwise, you have too much of a energy packed into that final consonant, and it's at the end of this very serene, penitential, sort of taut psalm. And the last thing you want to do is suddenly put a huge s like that. So and everybody puts it together. Now, I can see someone that twiddle is quite hard. I think what you should, when you sing it, you shouldn't, and most of us will take a breath before, won't we? I wouldn't come in. I wouldn't come back in too heavily. Sing it sort of quite gently, and the important thing is to when you breathe after the F, da, 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 breathe at the same pitch. That sounds kind of silly, doesn't it? But breathe up there because you're coming in back there, right? And let everything drop down. Does that make sense? So shall we have another go at that? I've got lots of people saying they would like to rehearse bar 19, and I've got my score on its way. It's about to pop up in my... There it is. Thank you, Mark, for that. Okay, let's have a look. Bar 19. Computer's very slow. Okay. Amplius lava me to ab iniquitate me. So you know what I was saying about 4 beats in a bar, just very gently tapping those fingers out. You got 2 beats on the tate, ta, 2 on there, and 2 on the te, and then it's me, me, and that top G there, it sort of springs in. Excuse me. It springs in not too loudly or too heavily, but it springs in after the 3rd beat. So shall we go from? Let's go from ab iniquitate. I will try and find that here. Okay, here we go. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's have another go at that. Okay. Two, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. That's it. I think the important thing there is when you come down to that E flat, the first beat of the next bar, that you don't enjoy the top note too much because you've got this little squiggle. If you take your time over that, you're delaying the whole of the end of the phrase, and the phrase is already very long. So your alto, second soprano, and bass companions probably wouldn't thank you for. Don't draw it out. Just keep those fingers very gently tapping away. Okay, good. So let's have another go at that whole solo verse. Amplius lava me. The other thing about this piece is the passaggio. I don't know if many of you know what the passaggio is. It's kind of when your natural singing voice, it's where you go from what is your natural range into a sort of a head voice. You need a bit of head voice and the turbocharged stuff that goes to your high range. It's that note. And for a lot of sopranos, a D is right on the passaggio. And so singing all these lines is really quite, as a sort of a light baritone sort of second tenor, which basically means I haven't got any low notes and I haven't got any high notes. Singing on lots of Ds, my voice just gets really threadbare after a while. So if you're one of those singers that finds a D is just around your passaggio, then funnily enough, I would, if I was in a singing lesson, Amplius lava me, I would be trying to free it up all the way through that phrase. A singing teacher would, there are singing teachers that sort of do this, aren't there? And they sort of make that the vibrato, and you want to just, what they mean is keep the notes spinning. It's not necessarily vibrato, but it's keeping it alive around the and it gets straight and it gets stuck. And then it's very difficult to flip from that if you're not sort of keeping the passaggio alert and alive and free. It's very difficult to flip from that natural range into your head voice suddenly. So this time let's go back to bar 15, amplius lava me, and try to keep it nice and free, not too loud. Okay, are we ready? I think it's coming up. Oh, no, it's not. Now here, keep the sound nice and free as it goes to the R vowel. Now remember the slight slide from the G to the C. Breathe when you want. Okay, very good. So, actually, Victoria takes her time over it, doesn't she? She doesn't try to do it too quickly. Which I think is actually quite nice, isn't it? If you want to just slightly linger at the beginning rather than I wouldn't worry about it. The other thing we should do is go to the end. Let's do another top C on a different vowel. Let's try Benigne fac domine. This is bar 77, so page 8. Benigne fac domine. And I think our quartet, they take a breath after domine. So in your scores, if you want to just put a little comma or a line after the word domine in bar 77, then you'll be able to breathe with them. You've got lots of dark vowels there, haven't you? So that's one to make sure the cheeks stay up in. Ut edificentur, that's how you say that word. Ut edi. Ut edificentur muri. Yeah. And the way here, instead of yeah, if you can think a bright vowel, yeah. But there, it's probably quite important you don't lift. If you're already lifting here, you're going to look fairly surprising if you try to get to the top C by doing that. But I think a bright vowel, but actually keep everything very lazy, open but lazy here. Yeah. Okay, so here we go. Benigne fac domine. This is bar 77, and then we'll go to the end, and we are singing soprano 1. So in bar 91, it is the D, and then okay. So in fact, when you record this, if you could all record all the parts, but yeah, soprano 1 at bar 97, the very top line of the score, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the sixth line down. Put a little circle around those twos. You can see it's SSATB. So you want to record the top line of that, and then the top line of the bottom 4 parts, SSAB. But for now, we'll do what we did before, which is actually jump down to the 6th line down, which starts on E flat. And I notice on our recording, which the tenebrae singers were singing along to, I hold that note for an absolute eternity, don't I? In tunk. And then it kind of starts to shift. So just make a note of that, I think. It might be that I was waiting for it to be, sort itself out and get in tune before I would let them move off. But I don't know. It's such a long time ago since we recorded it. We recorded it in 2005, I think. I mean, not these tracks that you're hearing. So we'll go bar 77, Benigne fac domine. There's your D. Okay, are you ready? I'm going to have to try and find this on my I'm hoping it's going to be around here somewhere. Here we go. Yeah, listen for the breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Now nice and relaxed. This first note is long. Oh, shush. Right. So when you're practicing this week for these top Cs, somebody wrote, just about reached the C but scared the dog. Perfect. So our aim this week is to get these Cs nice and smooth and not scare any of the local wildlife. So remember, and if the leap of the fourth, getting up to the C is tricky, if it's too hard work, just play around, go up to the A, then the B flat, and if you're really ambitious, just make it a little exercise and hop up to the D. That would be absolutely fine. Our son once it was our daughter, did a descant. Well, she was only about 7 or 6 or 7 at the time, but she did the descant at the end of Hark the Herald Angels Sing, which is in G major. So she was already on a top G, and as my wife is always sort of doing, she put an arpeggio on the top of the top G at the end of the descant, and then went up another octave. And I've got a recording somewhere, and it's bang in tune, and it's just like this sort of electric buzz that sort of makes you go, "Ooh, wow," and our dog was fairly traumatized by that. Anyway, so I think we're at 4:30. So unless there are any burning issues, I think we've covered the main things about every phrase you sing wants to have a long arc, not sort of dipping and rising and dipping and rising. It's like that kind of shape. We're keeping the bright sounds. When you need to take a breath, absolutely crucial. You don't squeeze the air out and then end up having to take a gasping breath. That's not going to do your larynx any good. So just relax. If you can see you're going to need a breath, come out of the sound gently. Take a quality silent breath. Because when we record you all, what we don't want to hear is in the middle of the lines is sort of all this kind of stuff. So try to get into the habit when you're recording of silent breathing. The only time I like to hear a breath really is when the whole choir stops singing and starts again. And then it's a collective thing, and there's an energy to it. And I think that makes perfect sense. I don't like recordings of choirs where engineers edit out the breath. It almost feels inhuman. So, breathe, take the breaths that you need and get quality breaths, come back in the sound and in control. I think it's all fairly simple music for everybody, isn't it? It's 4 beats in a bar. There's that one bit, ya-da-dum, ba-dee-da. Spring off the 3rd beat, but make sure you get to the beginning of the next bar sort of in time. Ya-dee-dee, ba-da-da-da-da-dee-dee. Just think of your colleagues running out of breath elsewhere. Right, so I think that is it for us now, First Sopranos. You are going to be brilliant. Have a wonderful time, and I can't tell you how much I'm enjoying this feeling of being connected to people. It is absolutely brilliant. And I'm seeing all these lovely messages and hilarious messages, which, you know, I kind of want to read, but they're all flipping past too quickly for me to focus on. Anyway, there we are. Crash course in becoming a first soprano in tenebrae, singing the allegri. I think you'll all be brilliant, and I can't wait to hear the final result. But do keep practicing, ladies, and anybody else that wants to practice these things. It's a good technique for any high note, whether you're an alto, tenor, or a bass. Just sort of slide up. Do not waste the air between the 2 notes. It doesn't mean that when we come to sing it that I want that aspiration, that I want the slide. We get rid of that, but the effect is as if we're sliding and there's no extra air escaping, making that flame from the candle flicker. Hope that all makes sense. Brilliant. Right, thank you, everybody, and see you later on in the week. You are more than welcome, I gather, to join any of the sessions, and I'll be back on in about 28 minutes' time once I've had another cup of Earl Grey and some biscuits. Okay, take care, everybody. Look after yourselves. Stay safe. Stay sane. Bye-bye.